So in this segment, welcome. Thanks for coming back again. We're going to talk about the 21st century Eucharistic miracles. And the reason we're focused on the 21st century Eucharistic miracles is because we now have the science to look at these miracles that happen. There's four that we have from the 21st century. And we have now the science to determine that number one, all these Eucharistic miracles have several things in common. We'll get into that. So what is a Eucharistic miracle and why do we have the 21st century Eucharistic miracles? Well, again, God is trying to show us that what St. Thomas Aquinas said is true, is that the Eucharist truly is Jesus Christ and transubstantiation is real. And now we have that evidence. And so for those of you who don't parlay in transubstantiation and think it's a four-letter word, transubstantiation is the substance changes. So our culture right now is really concerned about the accidents. So the accidents are the appearance. So let's take what's a human. So what a human is that we've discussed. Basically, human is a body soul composite, right? That's what the substance of a human is. Okay, the accidents of the human is skin color, eye color, hair, height, weight, all those sorts of things. Now our culture is very much fixated on the accidents, but it very much doesn't understand what substance is. So the substance of the bread changes, and only God can do that, because again, remember, God is in charge of both the material world and the immaterial world. Life doesn't come from the material world, and we spoke about that before. Life comes from the immaterial world, because the material world can't cause life. So the substance changes, but the accidents stay the same, and because God's in charge of both, created both the material world with the Big Bang, right? And then created the immaterial world where he thought he loved us into existence. You know, I formed you, I knew you before I formed you in the womb, in Jeremiah. That's basically, he's telling us that he creates life and he gives us the talents and abilities we have. So that's what the Eucharistic miracles are showing, is that the substance changes, the accidents remain the same. It still looks, smells, and tastes like bread, but it truly is the body, blood, soul, and divinity. So what is a 21st century Eucharistic miracle? So what it is in all the cases except for one, it's a Eucharist, a consecrated host falls to the ground. If the priest sees it, he can consume it right away. If he sees it right away, he can consume it. In most cases, they don't see it right away. They don't know if it's dirty or whatever, so they put it in a special vessel of water that drains into the ground. And bread the accidents of bread will, through osmotic pressure, it will eventually dissolve, right, within a week or two. Well, in four cases in the 21st century, that's not what happens. Instead, that bread develops a white spot, red spot. That white bread turns into a red spot, which turns into type AB blood, the same blood type that's on the Shroud of Turin, Sudermia of Oviedo, Lanciano, Eucharistic Miracles, 750 AD, and becomes living heart tissue with living white blood cells. And remember, we said before that in Luke's gospel, in Luke 20, he talks about, Luke's in 22:44, he talks about the Garden of Gethsemane when Jesus is sweating blood. Well, that's a sign of trauma, physical, psychic, mental, as well as spiritual trauma. Well, white blood cells go into that heart tissue, and white blood cells only exist outside the body for 30 minutes. But in all these cases, it's years later that these white blood cells are alive in this tissue. So that is again showing that Jesus Christ, the Eucharist, has a fully human nature, which that's where his blood comes from. That's where his heart comes from, because God doesn't have a heart, right? God is simple. He's complete. He's pure act. He's pure love. He's creator. He doesn't have a heart. He doesn't have type A blood. That is from Mary. So he has a body, blood, and then a human soul. And then the hypostatic union is to that divine nature. Again, that's a mystery, but the divine nature is there. So the second person of the Trinity now has, God is looking at, that's what we see in Revelation. God is looking at our wounds, right, looking at the wounds of Jesus. That's how he redeemed humanity. That's why it's done like that, so he could redeem humanity. And so that's what a 21st century Eucharistic miracle is, and we'll get into all of those in the next segment. But just to remind you, it's evidence that the Eucharist is Jesus Christ. He did die for us. He is the Eucharist, and he is a fully human nature and a fully divine nature. And that is why we have the 21st century Eucharistic miracles, because we live in a time where everyone claims, our culture claims, that science has disproven the existence of God. It's just the opposite. Science is affirming this. Again, you can't ever prove anything scientifically, just the probabilities are low, but the evidence is overwhelming on the side that there really is a God, there really is a resurrection, the Eucharist really is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ, and that the second person of the Trinity is the one that causes life.